You have 211 days until the Great Reset. Is that enough doom? Actually, probably not. We need fewer days, right? So by the time you see it in the news, it's going to be too late. And that's the general idea of being prepared. Now, maybe that means stocking up on some basic supplies ahead of time. Maybe it means knocking out revolving debt, putting aside some savings, maybe even stacking up some of this stuff. But whatever it is, to do it right, you're best off working at it years ahead of that possible event that you're planning for. Now, if we look at this from a possible real case, you might be preparing for a recession, and not just a technical recession, a real one. So if you want to have supplies in place, backup savings in place, some metals stocked up, your preparations kind of fight against each other because it's hard to knock out debt and save up if you're also scrambling to buy supplies. You're also scrambling to stack up some metals while you're doing it. If you zoom in on the metals right now, you're going to see the premiums are still climbing. So we're not really getting those sales, and it might not be a legitimate backup to truck moment. Now, I'm not complaining about current prices, but if you consider the case where you scramble to buy a bunch of high premium gold, you burn through a bunch of savings to do it, and then a recession hits, well, if you're affected directly, you might have to sell off some of that gold that you just paid more for to cover those expenses, and that's a case where you would have just been better off saving. I'm not saying don't buy gold. I'm saying maybe don't go crazy. And this is the reason that I don't like when YouTubers make videos telling you that you have 10 days left, 14 days left. 10 days until this happens. Now, the takeaway from a video like that is that you need to scramble. And I know that some people legitimately like a certain kind of content. I look at it like caffeine or loud gym music. I need caffeine in the morning to get going. I need someone to yell into my headphones at the gym. I get it. But the particular type of video that implies that we're on the verge of something really bad and you need to scramble, I just don't like it. I might have a different opinion if some of those videos were ever correct. I've just never seen one that was, so I don't know. Now, what I will say, though, is that I think, this is me personally, I think it's very likely that we'll see a wide-scale market crash. I think we'll see that sometime in the next 7 months, and I think that that will drive a significant drop in gold price. It sounds pretty ominous. And it sounds even more ominous if I use the word reset, and I'm going to, we'll see a reset in the next 211 days. But let me explain. So I'm going to add some color here, and this is going to take some of the fun out of it if you like that certain kind of content, but I just don't do doom very well. It's not one of my skills. I mean, you've probably already picked that up. I chose 211 days, not 10. So first of all, I think that we bounce off the floor. I don't think it all goes down in flames. I think the kind of crash that some analysts are calling for is a lot like what we saw in February of 2020, where all markets crashed simultaneously, and then they took about 6 weeks to recover. And I don't think that we can ignore where we already are. Most markets are already in crash territory. So what we'll see, in my mind, is a final sell-off. Not like an additional 50 or 60% loss in the markets, just a last hurrah. Now, I think when and if that happens, and I'll get back to the if in a minute, I think gold goes with it. Again, like we saw in late February of 2020, everything crashed, so did the metals. And I've heard armchair analysts say that investors have to sell their gold positions to cover losses, but I think there's more to it than that. My armchair, though, just for the record, is fully relaxed, fully reclined, all the way in the laid-back position. I'm not sure, I gotta say. In that event, gold goes to $1,500. In other people's imaginations, it goes as low 1400s. Now, when, and again, if that happens, those swings, they'll be made for traders. I don't think that we'll suddenly see an ounce of physical gold for $200 less. Premiums or availability will make sure of that, and I don't think that it will last long enough to back up those trucks. I think it'll be a lot like March of 2020, where everyone says they picked up a bunch of cheap silver, but almost nobody actually did. Okay, so I covered the scary event. I mentioned that I think it'll be widespread, but then I said I don't think it will last long. So I think the next part to explain here is the reset. Now, Klaus Schwab, he's a sideshow. I know people enjoy that kind of show as well, but his 15 minutes are long over. And by now we should be able to use the word again the way that it was intended. A reset in this case would almost be like a new price rating. Equities are revalued in a crash, And then to varying degrees, currencies are revalued, assets like gold and silver are revalued, commodities revalued, Bitcoin, of course, revalued, and then depending on timing, real estate and other tangible assets are revalued as well. And the idea here is that you're reconciling money supply and you're getting rid of some of the crazy. And then once that happens, you've got a bounce. At least I think there'll be a bounce, and that bounce will come from all of the things driving inflation, from deglobalization and supply chain issues to lagging effects of just locking down the world's economies. I mean, things cost more now. Recessions are real. And I think that once the markets are repriced, the money will flow back in like it always does. People invest. That isn't going to change. And I think the price of commodities change there as well. And when the dollar loses its shine as a safe haven asset, you have both of those benefits for gold pushing the price back up. Now the if comes in if we don't get the catalyst for that final market drop, that reset with the lowercase r. And a Fed pivot is going to be a big part of that catalyst. But if that Fed pivot was a slow pivot, where maybe they held interest rates lower than expected, but also longer, maybe it doesn't flush. There's an analogy there that I probably don't need to make, but the idea is that it just stagnates for a while. No big acute drop and then no big bounce. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that we'll see this big crash event, but I am planning around it. Again, what do I know? But really, to me, it just means that I'm not buying as much gold as I normally do, or at least as much as I would normally do considering the current spot price drops. My automated transfers to my brokerage account, well, those are turned off as well. And I'm not dollar cost averaging into cryptocurrency. Big surprise there. Now, I haven't stopped. I've just slowed down. And I'm still funding retirement accounts. I'm definitely not liquidating all of my positions in the markets. And I'm not selling off my gold. Now, I don't make these videos to leave anyone with bad vibes, sinking feelings. So let's look out a few years, blur out the next 6 months. Now, personally, I'm more confident that the price of assets will be higher than they are today than I am that we'll see this big crash and reset. And I guess my takeaway in all of this is that I think it's really smart to plan for these kinds of things, but I also think that it's dangerous to scramble. And the example that I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this is that it would be a really bad idea if you saw one of those videos saying that you had 10 days or 14 days until the world economy crashes. I'm not even making that up, by the way. Those videos pop up in my analytics as videos people also watch. But anyway, if you took that warning and you rushed out to pick up all the gold that you could get your hands on, all the related preps, you wiped out your short-term savings to do it, maybe you picked up some extra revolving debt, well, you might not be prepared at all for what's coming. Maybe it's a regular recession that you need some cash for. If you have to sell off some gold at the time of a drop, and I do think that that drop is coming, well, you get the idea. It's another case of the tortoise winning the race. And ideally, you're working to get debt-free, you're stocking up on supplies, putting away some savings in cash, and this stuff, some gold, but you're doing it over the course of years, not days. So there it is. This is me with full doom turned on. That's the big reset that I'm planning for, the dire warning of X number of days until it happens. I mean, not really. But I guess it is an answer to whether I think the price of gold is going up or down from here. My answer is yes. I think it will do both. And if I can catch some deals at the bottom, well, that's great. I'm looking for any opportunity that I can get, but I'm not being crazy about it. And I won't tell you to be either. So I think that does it. Let us know what you think about the next, was it 211 days? Pretty ominous stuff. Roller coaster or end times? Are you waiting for a big drop? Maybe you think it's just a lot of people talking, not much happening. That could definitely be the case. But let us know what you think. And then while you're in the comments, hit that like button if you found any of this interesting. It's always a big help to the channel. And be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on if you want to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.